Gilo Selregan. This guy wanted just one thing his whole life: to achieve the ultimate small victory of martial arts. But as time kept passing, he understood that even if he threw his entire life into training, fate had never given him the ticket to reach that level. Still, he wasn't someone who gave up, so he grabbed hold of an old legend. A divine dragon who guarded a golden fruit that granted immortality to whoever ate it. And for that fruit, he fought a deadly battle with that dragon and finally reached that sacred place where that glowing fruit really existed, releasing truly divine vibes in its golden shine. Exhausted, he sat on the dragon's corpse, caught his breath, then stood up and went near the tree. Filled with belief and excitement, he felt that this was the key that would knock open the peak of his dreams. Without hesitation, he plucked the fruit, ate it, and the moment he swallowed it, a strange, powerful energy ran inside him, as if his entire existence was being reforged. Then it was revealed that this man was no ordinary person, but the world's strongest human, Gilus Elregan. But decades later, this same Gilus was lying old on his bed. Children and grandchildren stood around. Everyone felt his time was up. His elder son Gilliam held his hand emotionally. But Gilus told them not to be sad. The cycle of life was simply completing. Gilliam said that after Mother passed, the house already felt gloomy, and if Father also left, even more loneliness would spread. But Gilus forbade him from drowning in weakness. Then silence filled the room, and Gilus remembered the golden fruit. Maybe people don't even believe in such legends. Still, he was happy he lived a long, full life and saw his family. But inside, he knew all this was half-truth, because his dream still beat inside his heart. If only he had gotten a little more time, he would have pushed again toward the peak of martial arts he could not reach in his previous life. Till his last breath, he held on to that desire, and then, in a completely unexpected twist, he opened his eyes again and was shocked. The room was different, the body light, the atmosphere strange. He looked at his hands and was stunned. These were the hands of a child. He suspected who could have done all this when he was a 10-star level warrior whom no one could even touch. Then the memory of the divine dragon and the golden fruit flashed, and the truth appeared. The fruit didn't grant immortality, but reincarnation. And realizing this, true happiness returned to his face for the first time. Brother, we still have a chance. Now there was no scene of giving up. Gilus had received this golden chance of a second life, such an opportunity through which he could reach the very top of martial arts that he couldn't reach in his past life. Soon he felt he wasn't alone in the room. Looking around, he understood he had been born again in the annex of the same dragon family's manor, and many other infants were lying in the room. Then some maids entered holding baby bottles, but instead of milk, thick red liquid filled them. Gilus watched the maids filling that red fluid into bottles. He thought they would feed the babies, but suddenly they grabbed a goblin and forcefully fed it that red liquid. Moments later, the goblin's body started trembling violently. Red light burst out, and it exploded with a bang. The whole room was drenched in blood rain. Gilus's mind went numb. What in the world was happening? Then a maid said calmly that if they mixed a little water and adjusted the amount, the mixture became safe. Then they began feeding that red liquid to all the babies, and one maid picked Gilus up. He saw the bottle and immediately understood this was not milk. The energy inside it was extremely dangerous. He clearly felt it was dragon blood, and for a newborn's fragile body, it was lethal. But before he could do anything, the maid shoved the bottle into his mouth, and naturally, as a newborn, he began to drink. In that moment, power ran through his veins like lightning. His tiny body shook with pain. But Gilus recognized it. It was the ancient dragon's blood. He thought it was dangerous. But maybe this was the chance he had been waiting for. If he could endure it, He could surpass even his old limits, maybe reach the true peak of martial arts. So he kept drinking with full determination. His veins bulged, his body writhed, but his willpower remained steel strong. Don't take me lightly. I am Guileless Elrigan. This mantra he kept repeating in his mind. And amazingly, he crushed the pain and pushed forward. The maid stared at him. This was a death sentence. But the child was surviving and drinking it too. Inside his tiny body, two giant dragon energies were clashing, fighting for dominance. And when one overpowered the other, Guileless was shocked that he absorbed the power so easily. In the end, when both dragon energies fused, he felt this was the perfect chance. He drank the last drop and couldn't believe he was alive despite the pain. His body didn't burst, but actually became tougher. He noticed some other babies also survived, so he smirked inside. Never underestimate a newborn's survival instinct. But after all, a child is a child. Fatigue overwhelmed him, and despite victory, Guileless Elrigan, now reborn as the strongest human, slowly drifted into sleep. 7 years later, he was now doing lethal training, doing one-handed push-ups with a massive boulder on his legs. After completing the 1,000th push-up, he threw the boulder up and let its heavy weight drop on his back. Guileless was astonished at how deadly the strength stored in his body had become. The former Dragon Clan chief Guileless Dragon was now living his new identity as Zeke Dragon, and inside him only one emotion echoed. Zeke wondered, how did he get such dangerous physical power at such a young age? Then he realized it was all because of the ancient dragon blood flowing in his veins. In this world, every being has a source of power, but the ancient dragon blood they were fed in childhood had power 1,000,000 times greater than any normal human. And newborns who survived drinking it became far stronger than ordinary humans. The divine dragon's source of power was inside him. So Zeke knew he had surpassed his previous life's age by far. And because he was the only child who drank the entire bottle of dragon blood, the changes in his body were beyond anything he had expected. Yet his biggest frustration was that despite all this progress, he was still only a 1-star. He had trained so intensely that at least 4 stars should have awakened. In this world, stars were the measure of one's internal power. It was said a human body was like a tiny universe, and the more stars in this internal universe, the stronger the person became. But each new star was many times harder to reach than the previous. In his past life as Guileless Elrigan, Zeke had reached the 10-star level no one else in the whole world had ever achieved. Time truly flies, Zeke muttered. Now he was 7 years old. He learned he was the illegitimate son of the current dragon family's chief. His mother had died when he was an infant, and he had never even seen his father's face. This felt extremely irresponsible to him. His biggest shock came when he discovered that 1,000 years had passed since his reincarnation. Reincarnation itself was mind-blowing. But after 1,000 years, the world had completely changed. Now it had become a true world of only the one who survives is the real player. The biggest proof was feeding newborns dragon blood and the ritual called the Dragon Trial. Only children who survived both the dragon blood and the Dragon Trial were taught to become dragon warriors. Zeke should have been one of them. But whenever he asked his caretaker servant why no instructor ever came to him, the servant simply said he wasn't permitted to answer such questions. Till the age of 7, Zeke wasn't given even a single lesson. Isn't that strange? He muttered to himself. Every child who passed the Dragon Trial received training, except him. He stayed alone every day with just one servant. When he questioned the servant asked instead what the problem was with this arrangement. Zeke said tiredly that conditioning his body was more important than learning to fight right now anyway, and he could learn on his own if he wished. After all, he had been a 10-star warrior in his previous life. Zeke then asked about the other surviving children or any information about the main family, but the servant gave the same answer again. He wasn't allowed to tell. Zeke's face filled with irritation. "Will you always dodge my questions like this?" he said sharply. The servant repeated he could not speak on such matters. "Isn't this cruel?" Zeke said bitterly, "treating me like this?" But the servant politely said he was simply following orders, and his responsibility was only to take care of Zeke's daily needs. Nothing more. The servant himself was a 3-star practitioner. He could easily teach Zeke basic fighting techniques, but Zeke had zero interest in such minor things. Living with that servant for 7 years, he had grown used to his lifeless answers. Finally, Zeke decided there was no point staying with him and headed straight into the forest. The servant said nothing, just quietly watched him go. So she is actually letting me go, Zeke thought with mild annoyance. Inside the forest, he plucked wild poisonous herbs and ate them without hesitation. Just like before, the taste was terrible, but it was part of his training. Suddenly, he felt something strange. He took a deep breath and reminded himself to stay calm. Be patient, be patient. He clearly felt someone was watching him from afar, eyes fixed on his every movement. No matter how much he tried, the feeling of that gaze wouldn't disappear. A few moments later, he exhaled slowly. So these people followed me even here. Wow. When he couldn't bear it anymore, he called out, "If you want to say something, come out." Then he hid himself in tall grass. Soon, crouching low, Zeke felt a heavy, oppressive aura around him. And when he looked toward it, he saw a creature called an anger boar standing there. What kind of aura is this? He wondered. The black fog-like energy surrounding the creature. He had never seen anything like this even in his 1,000-year past life. As the anger boar began grazing, Zeke suddenly stood up, revealing himself, shocking the beast. It charged at him with a fierce roar, and instead of fear, a true excited smile spread across Zeke's face. He was going to enjoy defeating it. The beast lunged, but Zeke dodged like lightning and gathered golden energy into his fist. With one powerful punch, he released such explosive force that the anger boar's body blew apart. Zeke smiled seeing this. His strike was many times stronger than expected. Even as a 1-star, his power was above most practitioners. Hoisting the creature's corpse onto his shoulder, he said, "Once my star level rises, the game will get even more fun." He was tired. 7 years of being ignored and isolated by the dragon family had worn him out. He thought maybe he should leave this place and choose his own path. Perhaps head toward the sea. On the other side, far in the darkness, a cloaked man was watching him. "What is happening in this boy?" he muttered. Without any formal training, he reached 1-star and blew apart this anger boar with one strike. He couldn't understand how Zeke sensed his presence. "This child is not ordinary," he said quietly. He remembered Zeke's mother had died early, and his father, the clan chief, had never cared for him. Without guidance, how had this boy become so powerful? But whether illegitimate or not, the clan chief's blood ran in his veins. So observing him from the shadows was part of the clan rules. That's why people like him watched secretly. Illegitimate son, yes, but the chief's blood flows in him. Maybe that's why he is so powerful, he muttered. Then with a faint laugh said, "In the future this child will be something worth watching," and vanished into the darkness. Meanwhile, Zeke returned home and was packing his things. He was about to set out when suddenly he felt several powerful auras outside. 3-star and 4-star practitioners, and 1 5-star practitioner. What are these people doing here? Zeke quietly went to the door and listened. From their conversation, he could clearly tell they were simply praising the clean and fresh air of this remote place. saying how peaceful it was since there were no rifts nearby. Hearing all this, Zeke understood they weren't killers or anything. Their vibe wasn't negative at all. So he opened the door directly and asked, "What work brings you here?" The whole group froze. Then Zeke noticed the emblem on their clothes, the mark of the Legion clan. He muttered softly, thinking what these people wanted from him. The people immediately bowed and said, "It is an honor to meet you, young Master Zeke. We have been sent to take you to your exam location." Exam? Zeke's forehead tightened. A straight frown appeared on his face. These people are expecting me to take an exam when I haven't even been properly taught anything.